most of the handwriting improvement programs are working on the hand and on the instrument, but what is important is the blueprint is here. So when the child is actually
Yes.
writing, there are neural pathways which the handwriting is actually coming onto the paper using hand as a medium. That's why you'll see that there are other people in the world who don't have hands but they still write by using other parts of the body, like they use the mouth, they have used the toes. And in fact, I have worked with a child who lost both the hands because of electrocution, and he had to be amputated, and I had to train him to use his feet, and he actually ended up writing his SSLC examination and scored
Wow.
beyond first class. You know why? Because the blueprint is here, and all that you have to do is train your muscles to get in alignment with that.
So, 8-year-old Anish was an extremely bright child. He has a solid understanding of concepts. He almost learns everything quickly. He's able to answer all the questions in his classroom. But there was one major challenge that he was facing. He couldn't put his thoughts down on paper. His parents, his teachers, they tried everything. Finally, they found a handwriting expert, and he found that Anish suffered from a learning disability called dysgraphia, a deficiency in the ability to write, primarily handwriting. Dysgraphia is a specific learning disability as well as a transcription disability, meaning that it is a writing disorder associated with impaired handwriting, orthographic coding, and finger sequencing. Essentially, movement of muscles which are required for writing. In less than 21 days of coming in contact with this expert, Anish was able to write sentences, he was able to work on his handwriting and improve spellings. This expert was none other than Imran Baig. He's here with us today. I'm sure lots of parents often wonder how they can help their child improve their handwriting, or they may be missing that there is some issue that the child needs to resolve. So, Imran will help us understand if there are such issues, how to identify them, and everything handwriting. Welcome, Imran. We're so happy that you're here on Meet the Mom.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me here.
So, in this new age of laptops and online learning, how significant is handwriting? Is it important to improve on one's handwriting, or is it just becoming a redundant skill?
Well, I definitely get this question asked a lot of times, and especially when I introduce myself as a handwriting expert or a penmanship influencer. I know people think I'm against the technology. No, I'm not. I use the best of technology. I have the latest laptop. I use the tabs and every possible technology, has to offer to us to make our life easy. And yes, the technology has a huge influence on our education system currently. Thanks to this pandemic, we saw a huge transition in terms of our learning and our approach towards education. But handwriting can do what handwriting can do. You know what? Our education system is so that starting from an entrance exam to your nursery to primary to high school to even to a professional course which you want to enroll into, you have to write. And let me also
Right.
mention the highest level of competitive exam, the civil exam, requires you to write close to 3 to 4 hours of writing. And if you're going to be saying that, okay, Imran, handwriting is not relevant right now because everything is online and things like that, it's just a short time phenomena, and your child definitely has to go back to the school and they have to write. And if you're not going to be
So,
supporting them in filling up this gap, there'll be a huge learning gap when your child goes to the school, because even if your child knows the answer, your child will not be able to write it because he has lost the habit of sitting in one place. He has lost the habit of bringing in the coordination between the hand and the pen and the body. So you can actually experience all that. So I say that handwriting is really, really relevant. Yes.
you're absolutely right. I think a lot of parents are anyway really worried that their children are not writing enough or they're not practicing enough. I don't think the concern is so real about writing, but there is definitely a lot of they're really concerned that there is going to be a huge gap when schools open up. Even if it's just about sitting in one place or the discipline of getting up and going to school. So I'm just guessing while speaking with you, I'm just realizing that yes, and writing will also be something that they'll probably have to cope with when they go back because they'll again have to write. Right now, everything is happening online. All the assignments are also going on the laptop. So yeah, so maybe this is a good time to realize that we should probably start making them practice writing like we used to when we were kids, and every summer holiday we'd be asked to write like a paragraph, just copy it from the newspaper, English and Hindi, to practice. So maybe that's a practice that can help. Speaking of which, I'm sure you also get this a lot, that what is a primary reason for bad handwriting? Is there a reason at all? And how is a pandemic, like you just said, affecting this even more? Like, are children writing worse now? Are they out of practice when it comes to writing?
Surely, yes. Let me start my answer with a statement that there is nothing like good or bad handwriting. Okay, so the term good or bad does not exist in handwriting. What is important and as aspect of handwriting is whether you have a legible handwriting or an illegible handwriting. So if you have a bad handwriting, there are no beauty parlors to beautify your handwriting. But if you have an illegible handwriting, yes, there are techniques, there are scientific approach towards making your handwriting legible, because the ultimate aim of you writing is to communicate, right? When you're writing in your exam paper, the teacher has to get your communication right. The teacher is able to read your answer, and that's why you score better in your academic. So yes, legible handwriting is a very important aspect, and teachers and parents should get present to what are the factors which makes the handwriting legible, because that's something which we need to be really working on, rather than focusing on beautifying the handwriting or buying gadgets or stationery to thinking that okay, it is going to help you in your writing.
Speaking of which, does stationery or the instrument being used to write, does it impact handwriting or can it improve it?
Yes, definitely. If you have a right choice of instrument, it will definitely make your handwriting stress free. Okay, it's there is a method which I have developed where I support individuals in choosing a right writing instrument. For example, if I'm going to be using a particular pen, I don't buy this pen because it looks good, and I buy this pen because it also fits well in my hand. So you need to have a proper understanding, and I'm going to be supporting individuals, and that's what I have been doing, and that's why I call myself as a penmanship influencer, because I want to educate people who are not aware of this. So there are pencils available in the market, there are pens available in the market, starting from 2 rupees to 2000 rupees. But what is important is, don't buy pencils or stationery just because you need it or you think that it's going to help you. Also, you need to spend some time in thinking what good is going to do to you. Is it really comfortable with your grip? Because all pens and pencils are designed to be writing well. It has to have a good flow of the writing, and the ink flow should be nice. But what is important is, even after investing so much on stationery, your child has an impact on the finger. Your child actually break knuckles and doing all the possible things. Why? Hand is paining, he's not able to write for a longer duration. So this is where the understanding is required. So yes, stationery plays a very important role, and especially after you understand what is right for you.
Got it. So essentially, every person may require a different instrument. It's not that one fits all.
Yes.
You probably have to understand and identify what instrument works best for you based on the shape of your hand, and what are the other factors, and how do you need to personally meet the client to be able to give them advice on
No,
this?
I have been, doing this post the pandemic. I have been actually working online, and I'm interacting with a lot of kids. In fact, I have interacted with close to 1,000 kids and supporting them in choosing the right instrument. And it is possible doing it online, because what is important is, most of the parents think, okay, having a triangular shape of a pencil is a better gripper. But let me tell you, a small
Right.
point is that, so if you're going to be using a triangular pencil, and it's going to be good for you in the initial stages, but what I want you to tell you is that slowly and steadily your child will transit from pencil to pen. And when the child is actually transiting, there are no pens designed in a triangular shape. All pens come in a round shape. Can you see that there will be a huge impact for the child to shift over from one
Got it.
writing instrument to the other one?
Yeah.
So more than
Yeah.
helping you choosing a right instrument, I actually tell you, I actually introduce you things which you should not be doing about your pen. More than buying the right pen, I tell you the pens which you are not supposed to buy at all.
Correct, correct. So yeah, there are so many factors that actually go into writing, and does it also help you write fast? What about speed? How can one improve on speed, maintaining handwriting? Otherwise, sometimes when you need to write fast, you tend to write shabbily or it becomes untidy.
Ji.
And I'm not going to call it that, but
Yeah. Um,
but what can you do
True. Yeah.
when it comes to
Speed is very important because in the examination hall, there are only two things which are helping you, right? Your parents and your kids there. The only two things which will help you is how much you remember of what you have read and understood. And number two is how much you can write of what you have remembered in a stipulated time. Yes, speed is very
right?
important because averagely, if your child is in a primary school, your child will be writing a science examination for about 2 hours, and the amount of words, the number of words the child will be writing is close to 2000 to 2005 500 words, and your child has to be trained into keeping up with the time and also able to recall and then write. So yes, very rightly said, if you write slow, anybody can write better, right? The challenge is
Right.
when you write faster, and you know what, children do have a fast style of writing, but what happens is when you write fast, the legibility goes for a toss.
Correct.
So I have
Yeah,
methodologies. I
absolutely.
train individuals into basically keeping up with the speed and the legibility. And the another important aspect which nobody is going to talk about is comprehension. Okay, so the speed, legibility, and the comprehension. Dear parents, it's not only about filling the notes, it's not only about preparing your project, your assignments. You need to also have an ability to comprehend what you're writing. Otherwise, I see a lot of kids put in a lot of efforts to complete the notes, and when the exams dates are announced, they're actually again going through the notes, but wherein the actual intention of preparing the notes was to actually remember what you're writing. So can you see that the children are actually doing too much
Absolutely.
of a hard work?
Yeah. I think, yeah, the language completely loses its essence if it doesn't make sense. So that is definitely the whole point of writing, to be able to comprehend and understand what you've written.
G,
Really, it has happened to many of us that we've gone back to notes and not understood what we wrote.
G.
So that is actually really insightful, and I think a lot of parents can get a lot of help when it comes to this, because either you're writing fast, or you're writing well, or you're not understanding what you're writing. So when all three come together is actually what everybody is striving for.
Yes.
So definitely that will be a huge factor when it comes to this.
And also, Neha, just to
Um,
add up to that question, if I may, that most of the parents don't even understand what is the actual speed of your child's handwriting. They come to me saying, Imran, my child writes very slowly. How slowly, they don't know, right? And they say, Imran,
yeah,
my child writes very fast, but how fast? No, you have never measured it. You don't understand the process of doing it. And that's what I do when I meet children. I help children to evaluate their own handwriting rather than me telling anything, or the parents. I put teacher, the parents and the child together, and I help them evaluate the handwriting, figure out the speed of writing, and based on that, then I tell them, based on the age group you are in, you should have an ideal writing speed. For example, if you're in from primary, from class 1 to class 4, you should be able to clock at least 10 to 12 words in a minute's time. So if you're from 5th standard to 7th standard, you should be able to at least clock about 17 to 18 words in a minute's time. So this is what is really required, and most of the parents don't really comprehend this.
correct. Absolutely. So there are these like benchmarks, and there are these number of words that you should be writing at a certain age within a minute, and that is the speed that you should be able to write in. And if you're not able to, then through training and through your help, that is something that these children can achieve.
Yes.
And is there a module, or how much time is the training? Is there, or is it like really specific to every child's requirement?
Yeah, I definitely work on broader aspects of it. Yes, there are certain techniques which children can pick up being in my group teaching sessions, and if the child
Hmm.
requires my personal attention, I'm also willing to work with children one on one. But the idea here is that what, Ms. Neha, that children are very very intelligent, and the one beautiful aspect about children is that you give them the logic behind everything you want to communicate to them, and once they get the logic and once they find the technique in alignment of what they have understood, becomes easy. So I have seen children
True.
able to transform their handwriting in less than 3 sessions. You know why? Because they understood the concept, they understood the technique behind that, and once they get the logic behind it,
Correct.
and they're so easily able to follow it. And yes, some children require more practice, and we are willing to support them. because the idea
Got it.
is, yeah, there is a muscle memory. We need to undo that because your child, no matter how much you
Yeah,
make him write, he has a comfort zone of going
right.
back to the old handwriting. So that's a thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just breaking that pattern and teaching them how. I think these are just probably little techniques and concepts that nobody really uses in traditional education. These should probably be a part of the curriculum, and this should be something that should be spoken about more. But somehow it is expected of children to just know how to write, and nobody really teaches them how, you know.
True.
Speaking of which, again, right now, so many children are studying from home, and parents have taken on a new role of being teachers. And many of them are teaching their children how to write for the first time. What would your advice be to them? And how do you think, how can your words or how can your advice help them? What can they do?
Thank you so much for bringing that topic on. Yes, parents are definitely playing multiple roles, and especially if you have a growing up child and he has never experienced a school or a teacher, in a physical format, and you become the first teacher
Correct.
for your child. My only word of advice to all the parents who are, just beginning to make your child write is that don't bring in too many, instructions when your child is actually writing. Like, you have to sit like this only, or you have to grip it like that only, or you have to write in this format. No, don't bring it, because the problem is the moment you bring in too many restrictions, your child starts resisting to write. The best thing
Mhm.
is, allow your child to fall in love with writing. And how do you do that? Freehand writing. Okay, get the different types of crayons and colors, and if possible, the best way your child can actually pick up handwriting is the traditional way. A slate and a chalk goes a long way. Okay,
Correct.
and allow your
Correct.
child to have fun with strokes and lines, and different shapes, and then you introduce the letters, rather than jumping directly to the letter A or thing. And that's what I do with kids. When I meet children, I basically teach them one letter, and if they can master one letter, they can actually master the six different letters. Because if you learn to write C, and this C can actually help you to write next five letters. It can help you to write A, G, D, Q, and O.
Correct.
And if the child is able to get that C right, and you will see that the fun is the child is able to duplicate the same in rest of the writing.
Correct. So the idea when you're teaching your child to write, or when there is a younger child who's just starting to write, is not to rush it. It's not about how many alphabets you can write at a go. It's about how well you're able to write just one and then move on to the next. Also, you said that it's better to bring in colors or slate. They used to say traditionally that when you're teaching a child how to write, you should not introduce the pencil too soon. You should start with colors or just start with coloring till they develop that motor skill or that strength in their fingers. Is that true? Can
Uh,
you
well, yeah, there are many thought of schools, and yes, I definitely agree to one important aspect is that fine motor skills. So, if your child is able to develop the fine motor skills, no matter it is a pencil or a pen or thing, but yeah, I see this. I have most of the parents who have children writing in pencil initially, and they already start with writing with a pen. You know why, Imran? Because they will be writing anyways in the next year, so I want to train them right now. First master with
correct?
one writing instrument, and once you have a mastery over it, then
Right,
you bring in other writing instruments. Yes, a chalk, a crayon, and it goes a long way rather than actually getting started with a pencil, because the child still does not comprehend the amount of pressure required. And that's why you see some of the children are
right.
applying too much of pressure, and some of the
Hmm.
parents are actually
Hmm.
buying
That is
pencils which are
something they just
darker
don't
in
understand.
shades, because your child is not applying
Yeah.
too much of pressure to write.
Right, right. So yes, every child is definitely writing differently, and they probably don't unlearn from the previous instrument that this is not the amount of pressure I require while using a pencil, maybe as opposed to a color. So that is it. That becomes the
Yeah,
reason for
that's why
it.
I'm telling you the education is very important, Ms. Neha. The idea is, most of the parents buy pen pencil, which is a mechanical instrument, which is substitute for a
Correct.
pencil. But I want to tell
Yeah.
all the parents out there, pen pencils are designed for professionals like me and you, that we don't have enough space or domain to sharpen our pencil on the go, and that's why the pen pencil is handy.
Right.
But that's not for kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so, that's a big no for all the kids out there. You should have a traditional pencil, especially a hexagonal shape or a round shape, rather than being a triangular shape. and how you grip it, and what should be the length of your pencil, how many times you need to sharpen up the pencil. All this is a education which I definitely want to share with everybody out there.
Oh, wonderful. So the length of the pencil also impacts your
Definitely
handwriting.
yes.
Wow, that is really, and also the number of times you sharpen it, at what sharpness should you be using your pencil. It is quite
Yeah,
technical,
I
I
talk
must
about
say.
erasers. Some
And
of the one of the things which I really like to bring to parents' notice is that parents stop using erasers. I propagate this. You know
right,
why? Because erasers don't help me remembering my mistakes. And that's why you see that you end up complaining the same to your child. How many times I should say this? Why are you repeating the same mistake? You know why? The child does not remember the mistake. Why? You have erased it. And some of the parents I've
it is.
seen, they sit with the child when the child is writing with the eraser in the hand, waiting for an
Yeah,
opportunity to clean that up. Allow your child to do
yeah.
mistakes and allow your child to accept it's okay to do mistakes.
That's so true. I think that's true for many aspects in life, that it's all right to make mistakes and just move on from there and just hopefully try to remember
Great.
them before making them again. So, all right, great. So that's really insightful, and I'm sure many parents will find this really helpful when you say that don't use the eraser that much, and the length of the pencil also matters when you're writing. So does how much you sharpen your
Yes.
pencil. So these are things that actually are never spoken about, and how they can also help your child perform better, because unfortunately performance does come down to what you do on that piece of paper in those 2 hours or 3 hours you're given every semester. So it is crucial what instrument and how you write or how you take that
Very true,
examination.
because
So
yeah, Ms. Neha, just to add on to what you're saying, because I always tell this story of 2 marks to all the kids who come in contact with me. I tell them that the difference between a regular child and a first class student could be 2 marks. 58 is not first class, right? 60 is first class, so the 2 marks.
right,
And
right,
from first class
yeah.
to a high first distinction, 2 marks makes a difference. So dear parents and dear kids, there, if you can work on your writing, and you, even if you can actually develop the 2 extra marks because you presented really well, I think that is going to do a huge impact on your performance.
That's true. That's true. There used to be those grace marks for having written well, or yeah, that can definitely. And also, the person who's reading your paper just might like it more, and it just is easier to browse through it. So yes, that is definitely can be a plus point when it comes to writing. Imran, I have another very interesting question for you. That how does handwriting training help children with disabilities, learning disabilities? Because definitely dysgraphia is one, but does it also help you with other learning disabilities like dyslexia and
Yeah, for sure.
more
With
such?
my experience of interacting with so many different children from over 17, 18 years of me being in this field, yes, I have come across a lot of children who have other learning disabilities. So the point is very simple, Ms. Neha, that handwriting is actually coming from your brain. Okay, and to be very specific, it's
Mhm.
your subconscious habit, and that's why, dear parents, and those of you listening, I want to tell you that most of the handwriting improvement programs are working on the hand and on the instrument, but what is important is the blueprint is here. So when the child is actually
Correct.
writing, there are neural pathways which the handwriting is actually coming onto the paper using hand as a medium. That's why you'll see that there are other people in the world who don't have hands but they still write by using other parts of the body, like they use the mouth, they have used the toes. And in fact, I have worked with a child who lost both the hands because of electrocution, and he had to be amputated, and I had to train him to use his feet, and he actually ended up writing his SSLC examination and scored
Wow.
beyond first class. You know why? Because the blueprint is here, and all that you have to do is train your muscles to get in alignment with that. And how it influences
Correct.
other learning disabilities is because if you're working on your subconscious mind, if you're empowering your mind, and you can actually see that reflection happening in your behavior, in your approach towards writing. That's why I follow something called as grapho therapy. Grapho means letters, lines, and therapy is a systematic approach towards writing it. And that's why I have seen a lot of behavioral changes happening with children, and the approach towards studies, and more importantly, they're able to sit in one place for a longer duration and then write. Because if they sit in one place, rest of things falls into place, right? So yes, I have seen
True.
children with dyslexia, ADHD, and all the other challenges. In fact, I also work with adults who have challenge in terms of something called as writer's cramp. Like they're not able to move
Yeah.
their hand. The
Right.
coordination between the hand and the mind has faded away. So yes, it's possible and it's doable. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So it is something that is recommended to parents with these learning with children who have learning disabilities as well. I have another very interesting question. I'm sure a lot of parents struggle with this. They often find that the child is more inclined to using their left hand. And do you think that that poses a disadvantage? Should you try and move your child if they are using their left hand more, or they're more inclined towards using their left hand? Should you push them towards using their right hand? Because a lot of parents tend to do that. Or is it just all right? Being a left handed person is also, you can write faster and there is no
Yes,
problem there.
yes, I get that a lot, and I have seen a lot of students actually suffering with this phenomena where the parent actually pushes the child to shift the hand from the which is the power hand
Correct.
to the
Yeah.
the other hand. So left-handers are actually technically called as sinistrality, where they actually write with left hand. And parents, good news, your child is writing with the left hand. That means the other part of the right brain is more active with the left-handed kids, and when you write with the right hand, the left brain gets activated. And there are people, there are kids who can write with both the hands, and that's why they are called as
And
ambidextrous. And some of the famous personalities, some of the most successful people are ambidextrous. So the hand is not really an important, as I just shared a few minutes back, that the source is here. So no matter what medium or what part, yeah, the challenge is, yes, people with left hand find a lot of difficulties, not in terms of learning, not in terms of writing. The only thing is that the acceptance level is really really low. And
true,
once you do that,
true.
it's nothing wrong. There's definitely not nothing wrong with writing with the left hand. But yeah, if your child has already picked it up and it is crossed more than 3 4 years of age, please do not change it, because you're not doing any good but adding more bad things to it, because your child will definitely have a bad handwriting because he has to shift from the power hand to the other hand now.
All right. So if children just automatically pick up their left hand and they start writing with it, that definitely means that this is naturally the power
Yes.
hand, and you should just not try and push them against it
Yeah.
if they're more
Yeah,
comfortable
and
using
just
it,
fine tune it.
because it doesn't pose any.
Just fine tune it with the
Yeah, there's
gripper
no.
and right grip and right position of the book on the table, rather than right keeping it straight. You need to be keeping it 22-degree tilted towards the right hand side so that you can move your left hand easily. And the same thing, if you're a right-handed
All right.
person, we ask you to keep your book tilted at least 45 degrees so that your hand can move easily on the paper. So a little fine tuning, you can actually do that. And allow your child to pick
Oh,
up the hand.
wonderful.
I have seen children who can actually, they write with left hand for a while, and after that they actually write with their, right hand because the hand is paining, and they're,
Yeah.
gifted, and they can definitely do that.
Absolutely, being ambidextrous is just another. It's so easy that you're never going to get tired writing a paper.
Yes.
So definitely, that is a huge advantage. But even being a left-handed person is not really a
No,
disadvantage
and
at
in
all.
fact, there's a lot of
So,
positivity there. Yes.
can you tell me some? Like you said that if you're a left-handed person, probably your right side of your brain is more developed. So it can definitely cause some sort of a conflict if you try to push your child to use the right hand. Is that also
Yeah,
a
I have
fact?
seen a lot of because what happens is the left-handed people are more creative. Okay, their approach towards learning is different, and because their other part of the brain is more active, so it's not like more developed, but it's more active. Okay, so the brain development is
Right.
naturally the same, but the activation of that part of your brain which manages the other aspect in terms of your creativity, artistic ability, all these things is very high with left-handed people, than the right-handed ones.
Correct. So great. I think that definitely is really insightful when it comes to learning about left-handed people, and also will probably put a lot of parents at ease about not having to move their kids to moving the right, using the right hand.
See.
I again want to ask you a little bit about handwriting speed. How does writing fast impact your handwriting negatively? And what are some of the factors, some of the simple steps that parents can do at home to train their children to write fast, yet maintaining, good handwriting and
जी.
neatability and keep it tidy?
Great. Thank you so much for asking this question. You know what? I should tell you this. All the teachers, all the parents always comment on their children handwriting, saying that, okay, you have to improve your handwriting. You'll see remarks on the diary, on your,
Yeah,
when you have a parent teachers meeting and all these things happen, that everybody comments about writing, but nobody tells you what to improve. Everybody says improve your handwriting, work on your handwriting, but what to work, what to improve, nobody mentions about that. And dear parents, if you're looking at increasing the speed of the handwriting, so that's one of the elements. But before you go to the speed of the writing, there are other four elements which your child should have in his or her handwriting. One is the consistency in the letter formation. So this is very important. Most of the kids don't have a proper blueprint in their mind about writing letters. Every time I have seen children in the same sentence, they will write the same letter differently. So every
yeah.
time you're writing a letter differently, that means you're changing your grip, you're lifting your hand from the paper. So that adds up more stress to your writing. That's why kids get tired. And even if they know the answer, they tend to skip it and get up and walk out of the examination hall. Then second thing is connectivity. And now again there's a conflict. Some schools say you have to write print style writing where all the letters are independently written. Some schools propagate cursive writing. So I want to support children in picking up whatever style they're comfortable with and bringing in more legibility aspect to that. Then the third element is where you're able to have defined zones in your writing, the letters which are supposed to go up, the letters which are supposed to go down, and letters which are supposed to remain in the middle zone. The spacing also plays a very important role. So dear parents, if your child can master these four elements, the speed will come to you naturally. But the challenge is most of the kids and most of the parents are focusing only on the speed part, missing out on the four elements. So that's why your child is able to write faster, but the legibility is actually not been really taken care of.
That's true, actually. Really, that definitely is going to be something that parents are, they don't look into. And like you said very rightly, that the most common remark that you read on children's paper is that improve in handwriting, but nobody really knows what to do and how to improve on it. But I'm hoping that this session will be able to help parents to understand this a little more. What would some of the tips be that you would give to a child who is just starting to write? Be it the position of while you sit, the distance from the table, the instrument being used. What would you tell their parents? What are the few factors that they should really take into account while learning, while teaching them how to write in the initial years?
Dear parents, focus on developing your child's hand muscles. That is more important. And the reason most of the kids have pain in the hand, they're not able to write, they're not able to hold the pen for a longer time or a pencil for a longer time, because the muscle development has not taken place. So what are the factors for muscle development not happening, right? One, it could be your diet. You're not eating enough nutritious food, and you're really not eating enough what is required to have that impact on your muscles. Number two is not doing enough physical activity. Parents, I'm sure you agree with me, when we were growing up, we used to do a lot of activity involving our hand, going outside, playing, and things like that. But now children don't have that flexibility, or because of certain restrictions. Yes, but you need to really work on developing the muscles of your child's handwriting, the hand, and then the writing will become really naturally fine. So that's why I do teach children some hand exercises to build up the hand muscles. And after they
Mhm.
finish doing the hand exercises, because what I do in hand exercises is to stimulate some of the parts of the in hand which is rarely gets stimulated when you're writing. For example, if you're gripping a pen and you're writing, so this is the the inner palm, which it is rarely stimulated. So this part is very rarely stimulated, especially this part. So I give exercises to kids to stimulate these parts of the hand, so that it develops them, it helps them to develop the hand muscles, so writing becomes stress free. And once they get a hang of it, I teach them hand exercises which are related to fingers. So I have something called as finger flexion exercises. So the idea is, when the child keeps the hand on the paper rather than writing with the entire hand, if your child can write with the
Yeah.
fingers, that will have more better
Hmm.
writing, speed will increase, less stress when you're writing. So all these aspects are there. So dear parents, you need a systematic approach. See, handwriting improvement is different than handwriting development. And I want you to get present to that
Correct.
part, that your child requires handwriting development as an approach, not an improvement. Okay, so let's get on to doing that, and that's what I do. I want you to sit with me and allow me to support you in evaluating your own child's handwriting. And let your child be there and you also be there, and let's find out what are the elements, because out of the five elements which I discussed, not all children require all five. Maybe your child requires only two, maybe your child only needs to improve on one of the elements. So let's find out that first, and introduce this concept and
Correct.
methodologies to your child, and the child will naturally pick it up.
That's actually really great because yes, there are so many things that go into improving your handwriting, and like you said, that maybe they don't need improvement; they just need development. But is there a certain age up to which you can really work on your handwriting or improve it, or is it easier to do it, in the first 5 years, or is there a cap on it that after a certain age, you can only do that much?
Yeah, the earlier the better. I normally come across parents, either they come too early or they come too late in contact with me. So what do I mean by too late is, they have board exams happening in next 3 or 4 months and they want to fix the handwriting immediately. And so that's too late, right?
Yeah,
And too early is when the child
yeah.
is still, picking up and getting the, fine motor skills defined. So allow that transition to happen naturally. Let your child grow up, pick up, abilities. And then the best thing is to fix all the challenges before the age of 7 years, because after 7 years it becomes challenging to change the grip. It becomes very challenging to change many more dimensions of your writing. So the earlier the better. So dear parents, keep a watch on child's writing habit, see how much distance they're able to keep. So I'm going to I really focus on all the ergonomics, the science behind the distance. It's not only about sitting and writing. There is because writing is a very, very complex activity. There's so many multiple bones which comes into action, there's so many muscles which are coming into action. So once you get a alignment of all these things, I think writing becomes easy.
It is so holistic that even the nutrition that if you're not eating nutritious food, that also impacts your handwriting. In fact, we had a chat with a sleep expert a while ago, and she also mentioned something very similar. She said that if your child is eating well and if they're eating nutritious food, if their nutritional habits are accounted for, and if they are good, they'll automatically sleep better. So it is all holistic when it comes to
True.
children. That if one aspect is taken care of, the other one just falls into place on its own. And you also mentioned that children are not exercising enough, which can be a primary factor as to why they're not able to write that much, and they get tired easily. And um, that is absolutely certain because they probably just don't have the stamina, or they don't have the strength in their hands when it comes to writing for long hours. What are some of the exercises that, or anything simple that children can do at home or parents can make them do, that will help them develop that strength in their fingers and in their hands?
Surely, I'd like to demonstrate a couple of exercises. And just to add up to my previous question, yeah, the youngest student I had was 84-year-old.
Oh,
Okay, I'm saying the
that's
word
pretty
youngest
nice.
is because I
That's
don't want to say
nice.
the oldest, because there's no age gap for learning a skill. Handwriting is a skill. It can be picked up. It can be mastered any time of your life. So it's as easy
Correct.
as learning to drive, learning to swim. So it's one of the elements of as a skill, and you can always pick it up. Yes, hand exercises, dear parents, as I said, there are many things to do, but to begin with, I want to show you the simplest of all possible examples, how you can develop your thing. So this is one part of your hand which is really stimulated when you're writing. So if you can grip it, so when you are actually holding your hand in this position, this should be straight, and this hand also should be straight. So it's not about doing it like this, it should be like this. And you should be going
Okay.
wider. How much wider? As much as your face is. So this is wider, so you need to be going and
Hmm.
coming back again, so you're impacting this muscle. So there's a huge muscle, because when you're writing, the first thing which actually comes in contact with your pen and the way you're going to hold it is your thumb and the index finger. So if this muscle
Correct.
development happens, so this is how. So give me a count of 10. So you can show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just do a realignment of your hand. Again, go for 10 rounds. So this is one of the exercises which I teach, because this will really help you to build up the tension and develop the muscle. And the second exercise is to do this. We're using the space between the fingers to stimulate, and when you're actually impacting, don't just hit on this aspect. When you come and when you're releasing, make sure all the fingers are actually stimulated like this. So you're doing it like that. So one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And every exercise I do, I ask kids to rub their hands so they bring in more vibrations. And their parents do this for count of 10 and two sets of each. You realize just sitting in one place and doing this, you will see that there's a lot of momentum happening in the flow of your blood. And this exercise is not only good
That's
enough for doing hand and developing hand muscles, it also brings in good focusing ability too.
Oh, wonderful. You also said that children are able to write better if they're able to sit in one place for longer. So, through these exercises, you're saying that it also helps you concentrate more, also helps you center yourself and be present in what you're doing.
Truly, and I once they understand the science, the stress is reduced. Like most of the kids have a habit of bringing both the hands onto the table when they're writing. So, if you're going to keep
Correct.
both the elbows on the table when you're writing, that means half of your body weight is managed by your hand. And that's why you get stressed out. And that's why you're
Right.
not able to write better. So, the right ergonomics is also very important.
Absolutely. Also, I'm sure you talk about posture when it comes to writing, because that essentially does impact your handwriting
Yeah.
as much as anything else would.
And it starts with
So
choosing a
posture,
right study table and furniture. And thanks to the pandemic, I see a lot of parents are so good. They want to give the best of luxury to their kids. They end up buying chairs with the wheelchairs, the chair which has a lot of reclining ability, the cushion wala chair. And all
right?
these things is not really required for your child. In fact, you're doing more bad than being good by adding up all these things. Your child should learn to have a static chair. And there is a science behind choosing a right table. You need to have a study table at home, dear parents, and I insist on you having one, because eventually your child has to go back to the school to write exams, and exam will happen on the table, on the desk. And if your child is not used to
Yeah.
sitting on the study table, then he will not be able to perform better
Then
in the
they
exam.
can sit in the class. Yes, absolutely. You said that using a static chair is better than using one which is, which is on wheels or which is
Ji.
reclinable. So, also you said that the distance from the table is quite crucial. How much would that distance be, and does it vary from for different age
Yeah,
groups?
the simple technique is I always give them. So you don't have to have a measuring tape. You don't have to actually get onto too much of numbers. It's very very simple. The distance between the table and the chair is the distance between this bone, okay, to the elbow there. So when you're sitting, so just make sure if your hand is in the L shape. So when you're sitting, just make sure the distance between the table, so this should be touching the edge of the table, and you should be actually sitting it straight. So that's all it requires. So maintain the distance. You don't need a measuring tape. You don't need to have that. And make sure the table is touching to the last rib of your child's body. That's all it requires. Don't buy a table which is too high, too low, because when you're writing, it's easy. So it's very simple.
Yeah, these are actually really simple, but I'm sure very effective techniques
Yes.
which can help you write better. Thank you, Imran. This has been such a pleasure. I'm sure a lot of parents will have many more questions. You can get in touch with Imran, and he can help you for a consultation. You can mail him at connect@imranbaig.com. And I'm sure that a lot of parents will find this session really insightful, and they're going to get in touch with you. And we have definitely taken back a lot from this particular session. And thank you once again for doing this.
Pleasure is mine, because one of the missions I have is to reach out to as many people as possible. So my mission is to reach out to 1 million people and support them in understanding the power of their handwriting and support them in forging the future by using the power of the pen. So thank you so much for having me here and supporting me in my mission to make sure I reach out and communicate and educate about the writing to as many kids and to parents and individuals as many I can. So this platform, I'm sure all the moms out there, thank you so much for patiently listening to us, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Neha, for having me.
Thank you.